Well, good morning, friends. How are you doing? Good, good. I want to say thank you. Several of you have already walked in with checks in hand and bags of supplies for our friends who have been decimated by Hurricane Michael. We are going to use this facility. I talked with Art Fuller, who's the president of Knowledge Academies, and they're going to let this become a donation center to collect supplies, to send them down to our friends in Panama City, Florida. For those of you who don't know, Panama City, Florida is the home to our parent ministry, which is called North Star. Pastor Marty Martin's a dear friend of ours, and they have an amazing church down there, multiple campuses, and if you haven't been on the news, friends, they got smoked with this hurricane, just short of a Category 5. Just between us, there are folks that still are cut off from supplies because the trees that have fallen and things are ridiculous. They're not even letting volunteers come in and help yet because there's not enough supplies there to help take care of those folks. So friends, when our friends are in need, what do? We step up and we do something. And we have a lot that we can be thankful for. So we are going to have this place open. We will have somebody here all day long until 6 o'clock tonight. So if you want to go hit Costco or Sam's, pick up some supplies and bring them back. We have everything you need on Facebook. We already have a post there. On my page too, I have those supplies. We have a list of them right here. But basically anything that's non-perishable, stuff to help them survive and go. They're having a hard time just getting supplies in. Really what happened is the hurricane built so quickly and it was so powerful, they didn't really stage a lot of stuff like they were planning on. And so it's been a lot of just hard stuff. Folks, let's do something. Let's help them out. So if you can give today, we're going to do a big Costco Sam's run before we go. Delisha, I don't see her here yet. She's helping us with this. And Delisha has already got a friend who has a trucking company, going to donate a driver and a truck to get all of the supplies we get to them and bring back. So it's been cool to see the community come together. Ezel Harding and Knowledge Academy, they're going to be doing stuff too to help get supplies. And let's fill a truck. Let's go help our friends in need. And I'm just going to be straight real quick. If it wasn't for their radical generosity, NewPath would not be what we are today. We would not even be meeting today. They have been amazingly generous towards us. And this is not line of sight mission for us. This was not on our strategic plan, but trust me, it wasn't on theirs either. And the cool thing about Marty, just to give you some context, they used their big church facility as a shelter, and the roof got ripped off in the middle of the hurricane. And their staff, when they went home to their houses and their parishioners, their homes were destroyed, covered in water. Everything they have was lost. And it's bad. So let's do something. Let's go be some friends to the people that have been friends to us. So whatever you can do, dig a little deep, do a little bit more. And I know we're asking a lot right now. We got the trunk or treat. We got Teen Terror. We got a lot of stuff coming up. But folks, this is only our 5th week, and I know we're putting a lot on this, but just do what you can, because if we all do something, together we can do a lot. So let's just roll up our sleeves and help. For trunk or treat, would you just do this? Could everybody bring in a big bag of candy for that on that Sunday, on the 27th or the 28th? Let's just all do that, and that'll help us bless the kids. We were at Chuck E. Cheese's this week, Todd Lake and I, and we got them to donate some special day passes and stuff, and they gave us some giveaways for the kids. So it's been really cool to see how this is all coming together. Teen Terror, this is our big annual youth event for Impact 412. If you're interested in helping us with this event, please come see me after our gathering this morning. We would need some people to dress up as zombies and scare little people. We need some werewolves to do the same. We need our house decorated. We're doing everything we can. It's an all-hands-on-deck weekend. So we have run seasons and build seasons. And right now we're doing a little bit of a run season into this. And our goal for that is to have 50 youth come out to Teen Terror that night. And so come be a part of making that happen. We're going to be doing food for them, and there'll be a scavenger hunt around the property. There will be the zombie night walk in the woods, and it's just going to be a great time for the kids. And of course, at the end of the day, we want people to come to have a good time, so they want to come back so we can introduce them to the one who can change their life and give them a purpose and a reason for living. That's Jesus Christ. So everything we want to do is to help them move forward with that. As we were sharing before, Life with NewPath is right after our gathering today. We'd love to spend some time with you on that. But also we have 3 things that we do here at NewPath. We do community, which you're part of, coaching, which is helping you take the next step in your journey on your where, how, why, and what. And we also have curriculum. Well, My NewPath is our class to help you coached through your where, how, why, and what in your life. We're going to start that on Tuesday evenings in the middle of November. There'll be more information as we come in. So for before Christmas, after the Thanksgiving season right in there, on Tuesday evenings, we're going to help you create your new path with Christ. So we're going to be spending some time on that. So just think about that in the back of your mind for now. Block off your Tuesdays. You'll benefit from it. We are on our 5th Sunday as NewPath Community. Give yourselves a hand. You are part of history today. It's so good to see the chairs filling up every week and watching this thing grow. This is a wonderful time. And some of you, this is your first time being a part with us. I know we have a lot of first-time guests. Thank you for choosing to be with us today. We're honored that you're here. So NewPath has a very unique mission. We have something that we want to do that is most important in your life. You know, when somebody tells you you must do something, do you notice that the first emotional response to that is, I don't want to do that? Do you feel that? If you say, hey, you must clean your room, you're like, I don't want to clean my room. Whenever somebody says you must do, you must be nice to me, I don't want to be nice. Whenever somebody says must, we have a tendency to pull back and say, I don't want to do that. But my friends, there's a few things in our life that we must do, and it's our daily habits. But here's the cool thing. I don't know what your daily habits need to be because you have your own unique temperament, your own context, your own circumstances. But you and God can figure that out. And we believe that the greatest life one can live is with God, living with purpose and mission. And there's 4 areas of your life that you must, there's that word, lead well. It is your faith. So week 1 in the Key series, we talked about inspiring faith. The second one is relationships. Week 2 was building relationships. Last week, Scott brought a message on shaping character. This week, we're going to talk about choosing health. When you get to the end of your life, whenever that is, your life is pretty much going to be discussed about those 4 areas. And however you lead your faith, your relationships, your character, and your health will determine your impact. Now, I need to talk to you about something real quick. When you hear series like this, sometimes you're thinking, man, I just really got to lean in. I just got to do this. My life could be bigger. Because if I don't have 2,000 people at my funeral, my life was meaningless. It wasn't great at all. Friends, all of us have different impacts in this world. All of us have different footprints. All of us have different things that we are going to give to this world. And one of the coolest things about Jesus when he was teaching, he says, I'm only going to hold you to what I've given you. I'm not going to hold you to somebody else's. I'm just going to hold you with what I've given you. And so we want to do some self-awareness working to say, this is really who I am because I'm only responsible with what I have. You know, I kind of illustrate it sometimes by looking at us as lights. And different people, because Jesus talked to us about being lights. He says, let your light shine. In other words, you have light in you, let it out. But he didn't say that every light was the same. Now, the properties of the light doesn't change. Light penetrates darkness, it illuminates, it helps us see things we didn't see before, keeps us from tripping, it does all those cool things. But different people's auras kind of like are different lights. We were talking to our youth at Impact this week. And Preston Hollis, I just love Preston. He's one of our key guys there in our youth ministry. I don't see him today. I think he used to walk with Jesus and forgot how to do that this week. He's always here. I don't know where he is. Is he okay?
He stayed a night at a friend's house, and so he should be here in a few minutes. Brian had to go pick him up.
Well, he better be. But Preston, what I love about him is he just kind of like, just chill. He just kind of pulls back, man. And when I see Preston Hollis, I mentally picture, as I see everything in my head, right? I see him kind of like as a blue lava lamp, you know? Just kind of chilling, you know? And I hear a saxophone playing, you know, I got a little jazz going, you know? That's just kind of what I see. And then some people are like, yeah, you know, they're like laser light shows, you know? They walk in the room, it's like, boom, you know, and they light up the place, and you're like, wow. And some people are like spotlights and desk lamps and flashing annoying lights. They have all these different kind of lights out there. But you need to figure out who you are and then look in the mirror and say, I'm okay being that. Because that's all God wants me to be. He doesn't want me to be the laser light show if I'm not that. But you know what? If you are, be the best one you can with Jesus Christ and make an impact in this world. But if God calls you to be that chill guy, do that. Be who you are. But when we go through this series, sometimes we hear it and say, man, I got to do more. I got to lean in more. I got to be bigger. I got to be better. No, you need to be the best version of yourself. God's never going to call you to be somebody else, but he's going to call you to be yourself and be the greatest version that you can be. I've struggled with that in my life at times. Man, if I could just teach like that guy, if I could just speak like that guy, man, they're amazing. Friends, nobody speaks like I do. I have my own style. It's Brian's style, just the way it is. And the more I can embrace that and be happy with it, it's fine. I have tried to change my voice. I can't change it. I've worked on it. When I was in speech class, I got a speech degree, and in my senior year, my private instructor looked at me, and he said, Brian, we got to do something about your voice. How do you change your voice? And for years, I struggled with it. And then Ray Romano became very popular. I'll let some of you figure that out later. Our key verse for this series is this: by his divine power, God has given us everything we need for living a godly life. Whatever you are, wherever you're at, he has given you everything you need for your life. Are you thankful for that today? We have received all of this by coming to know him. We've received him, the one who called us by himself by means of his marvelous glory and excellence. And our verse for today, when we're talking about choosing health, is 1 Thessalonians 5:23. May your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless until our Lord Jesus Christ comes again. I'm explaining that in just a second, but we have three key ideas today as you're following along in your notes. And if anybody need a copy of the notes, we can put your hand up. We'll get that in you because we want to keep this with you to help you figure out where you're at and what you can do to take the steps to be the greater version of what God created you to be with you. So slip your hand up and we'll get that to you. The first idea today is making wise choices will produce a healthier life. Do you agree with that today? Making wise choices will produce a healthier life. We are holistic beings. Our soul, body, and spirit all affect each other. This is one of our unique positions here at NewPath, is we will spend as much time talking about each one of these realms because they are integrated. Let me explain. There are many people in this life that talk about how spiritual they are, talk about how much they know about God, can spout Bible verses, but they don't lead their body well, and we really don't listen to what's coming out their mouth. Let me say it in very concrete terms. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is take a nap because you're cranky and you're tired. Or eat a Snickers because you're hangry. Okay, you got to do something because your body needs some leadership right now. It needs some attention. The next one is a healthy life begins with simple choices that become our habits. A healthy life begins with simple choices that become our habits. I'm going to tell a story about my friend here in just a second. He's an inspiration to me, but even before we get to the notes. But before we do that, I have this graphic here, and every one of us here today are sitting in one of these four areas. We are either in our survival, living, growing, or thriving. I want you to look at these for a second. You're either here and you're just trying to survive. My friends, those down in Panama City, many of them today are just surviving. They're just trying to survive. They're just trying to figure out how to make it. When I saw Marty's post today about church, and folks, they have thousands of people in their church. He said, there's no church today. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go lend a hand to somebody else today. We're just going to go help our community. We're going to go cut down a tree. We're going to go clean up. We're going to do something. We're just going to show Jesus today. So there's times in our life that physically all we are trying to do is survive. There's been many times being an idealist, an intuitive feeler, and an idealist that there's been times that I just had to figure out how to survive emotionally. And you may be here today and you're like, Brian, I'm just trying to make it through this week. Everything's flying at me, and I feel like every time I work, I'm just getting beat up. So maybe you're here to survive. Maybe you're here today and you're just trying to figure out live. Okay, I'm starting to make it work, and now I'm just trying to live. And there's a lot of people that just live from check to check. They live for the weekends. There's a popular country song right now about living for the weekends. Josh loves that song. I say, hey, Joshy, there's more to life than the weekends. But maybe you've never experienced that. Well, we want you to. Because we want you to get to the place where you can get to a growth cycle. Because growth has a lot to do with where we're trying to go in our lives. In other words, I'm now identified where I want to go, and I'm taking steps that are actually leading me there, and I'm growing with my life. And then there's some of you here today that you're in the last category, which is where we want to be, and that's in the season of thriving. Any organism goes through these cycles, and thriving is, man, not only have I hit the growth, but I'm actually reaping the benefits of the stinking hard work that I did way back there. But you guys all know this to be true. At any moment, disaster can hit, and you can go all the way back to the first box. Some of us maybe have never even experienced the thriving. But this is what Jesus said. He says, I didn't come, remember our key verse? I've given you everything I need to live a godly life. And he says, I didn't just come to give you life, I came to give you the abundant life, that thriving, that over-the-top living. But that's what we want to help you with. But we believe that it starts by leading your faith, your relationships, character, and today is our health. So there's been different seasons in our life that we've done different things. In one season, we were raising money for missions in New Zealand, working with the Maori Indians and different things. And while we were traveling the country, we met a lot of really neat people. And one of the people I met was a youth pastor at a church in Ohio. And when I first met this guy, he was in his mid-20s at this time. I thought, boy, he's huge. That was my first time when I saw him. Let's show a picture of him here. I said, man, that guy's big. He's really big. Looks like he ate the guy next to him. I mean, this guy's big. And he had a great spirit, great attitude, and he was funny, and he did all this stuff, but man, he was a big guy. And I remember seeing him a few years later, and I'm like, dude, you just got bigger. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're going to kill yourself. But you know when you have somebody that's, can I just go a little parentheses for a second? Isn't it strange that sometimes in our life, we size people up by what we can see, and we start thinking that's who they are because of what they can see, and then there's some of us that are really good at hiding things that nobody can see, that are more deadly and damaging than even what we can see. And can I just remind you, I don't know what's going on in your life. I may see some stuff, but I want you and God to figure out where you're at and what you need to do. But here's the cool thing. Well, let me get to the cool thing. It gets worse with him. So as a 30-year-old man, he gets diagnosed with diabetes. He's at 360 pounds at his biggest weight. And his doctor says, you got to go see a nutritionist. Now, this gentleman's a friend of mine. I actually talked to him on Friday, and he sent me these pictures. And he told me his story once again. Because he went to Cincinnati to hear a nutritionist to hear about what he needed to do. And he sat there and he said, Brian, I was angry. And they're showing me pictures I saw in first and second grade. You know, this is what you're supposed to eat, and this is the portions, and this is your apple, you know, and it's everything you're supposed to do. He's like, I know all that. He said, I was so mad. My wife and I got into the truck to drive home, and I looked at her and I said, if that's what it takes to live, then you're going to be a widow, and I'm leaving at a young age, because I ain't doing that, because that ain't living. He said, Brian, I was addicted to food. He says, a lot of people are addicted to something. He said, but everybody saw what I was addicted to, but it was cool because I could go to a youth group and we could have an eating contest, and I always won. Those big kids who say they have hollow legs, man, I could eat them every time. He said, so I didn't do anything with my diabetes. And then pretty soon I was starting to have some heart complications. And then things just started getting worse. And I was having this diagnosis, but I didn't change anything. He says, actually, when I left that nutritionist, I found the first fast food place I could find, and I hit it really hard to prove a point. I'm not changing nothing. That's not living. few months go by, and he's sitting there at church. By the way, give it up for Preston Hollis, who's in the house. There we go. All right, you're a celebrity. He's our blue lava lamp, in case you guys are wondering. Even the way he moved in, he just kind of glided. You know, you see the blue coming off. Do you hear the saxophone? Anyway, all right, back to where we are. He's sitting there at church, and they're having a potluck. And he's got a growing ministry. His ministry is growing. Everything's going good. And he starts feeling terrible. Sick like he's never felt before. And all of a sudden, the symptoms that they said were happening on the inside started to present themselves on the outside. And they had to rush him home, and he was laying on his couch after he went to the doctor and all that stuff, and he checked his blood sugar, and it was well over 400. He hadn't done anything to manage it. And he says, my wife and my kids went back to church to run ministry, which I loved more than anything, and here I am, 360 pounds, laying on my back, too sick to do what I even love and take care of my family. And I got on my knees, and I said, God, I ain't doing this anymore. He said, Brian, I just had to stink and make a choice. And I had to choose health. So next week, he lost 200 pounds, and he was perfect. Is that how it worked? He went on a 4-year journey. He never went to a gym. Never went back to a nutritionist, never did all that stuff. Because he said, Brian, I knew what I needed to do. I knew it. But I made a choice that day. He said, I finally had to say, do I really love my wife more than this food? Do I love my kids more than this food? Do I love my ministry more than this food? He said, but let me tell you my story. He said, but I didn't do drastic changes. I made small changes. The first time that he left, he went out to eat, and he went to McDonald's. But instead of getting his super big double quarter pounder with cheese, he got a quarter pounder with cheese. Instead of getting the giant supersonic fry, the huge one that spills everywhere, he says, I just got a large one. Instead of getting the super grande drink, I got a normal drink. And he says, I just started to slowly change things. He says, instead of getting a big plate, I got a small plate. And I filled it all the way up, but it was just a smaller plate. Because psychologically, if I could see a full plate, I could still feel like I was getting enough food. And then I changed my fork from a big shovel to a little baby fork. He says, and because it took me longer to eat. And I just started making these changes. He said, but the hardest one for me was to start physically moving. He said, Brian, I was 360 pounds of fat. And I'll never forget the first time I went. I said, I'm going to walk to the end of the block and back, and it's a quarter of a mile, and I can do this. He said, Brian, it almost killed me. He said, and then I would go a little further, and then I'd say, there's the street sign where I went last time. We're going to go to that next light pole and then back. And so he did. And he said, Brian, I was sweating, and I was sick, and I felt terrible. He says, but then I started to see some changes. And I started to walk a little better and get a little more energy and felt a little stronger. And then he says, I'll never forget the day that I finally said, you know what, that light pole, I'm not going to walk to it. I'm going to run to it today. And he said, for the first time in years, I actually started to do this thing called running, and the world shook with every step, and we went for it. And he says, and I thought I was going to die, but you know what, I did it. And then a couple weeks later, I went to a second light pole. And pretty much, now he's running miles, friends. You got to see him today. Went down to 176 pounds. See him today. Wow. You guys got to do better than that. Okay, Amber's excited. I mean, guys, he lost an entire person. From 360 to 176, and look at him now, and he says, now I'm sitting right about 190, 195, and I'm working out, and I'm running. He said, but here's the thing. My wife started losing weight, and she started taking care of myself, and my kids are struggling with obesity, and they started taking care of themselves. And all the time, I have more and more people text me, just like now. I said, man, you've inspired me, because I was stuck here, or I was struggling with this, and now I'm over here. And he says, man, it's an amazing thing. I had no idea that making one choice would change so many lives. Choose health. Notice our first point today. We must choose health for our souls. And the reason we're starting with the souls today is simply this. It starts on the inside, friends. It's in here. It's in here. Friends, when I've had some of the lowest points in my life, the battle was inside, not the outside. This is why I get so frustrated with people. I don't want to just say Christians, but with people, and it seems like it's a little heavier in the church when we spend a whole lot more time talking on the outside than what needs to happen on the inside. When Jesus came here, he says, I know you guys are really good at expecting the outside of the cups, but the inside of the cup is filthy and it's vile and it's disgusting, and you need to worry about the inside of the cup. And he was talking to religious people back then. It's an inside-out proposition. Leadership is such. As I've said before, my friend Jim Piper always says this: you are only as strong as what you tolerate. There was a day that my friend said, I'm not going to tolerate this anymore in my life. And he made a choice. Now, notice this. He said, may your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless until our Lord Jesus Christ comes again. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. It's our spirit, soul, and body. Let me make this really simple today. Friends, I don't understand all this. But what I kind of understand is this. There seems to be an inside of a person and an outside of a person. Do we understand that? Some of our temperaments spend a whole lot more time on the inside than the outside. Some of us spend more time on the outside than the inside. But we still have two parts. So the body is going to represent the outside, and we're going to break up the inside into two realms, soul and spirit, just like the Bible did. The spirit's our God connectedness, our God consciousness is that part that's parts when it speaks to us, you're like, ooh, you kind of feel that? That's God talking to us to help us live the greatest life possible. He's not there to hurt you, he's there to help you. And your soul has three parts: your mind, your will, and your emotions. Your mind, emotions, and will. Look to the person to your right and say, you have three parts. You have a mind, emotions, and a will. Look to them and tell them, on your right. Now look back to the person on your left and say, and you've lost your mind. Our mind, number one, is this. God encourages us to focus our minds on the right things. I cannot say this enough. Colossians 3, read it for yourself. It says, set your sights on the realities of heaven. You have a new life with Christ, set your sights. The idea is set, it's focused, because what you focus on magnifies. What you focus on magnifies. If you focus on the wrong things, you're going to magnify the wrong things. My friends, here's the most important thing I could ever say to you. Where you look is where you go. You need to focus on where you're trying to go. Because you'll never hit your goal if you don't know. 87,000 flights take off in the U.S. every day. Did you know that? Every single one of them have to have one thing before they can take off. What is it? A destination. They have to have a flight plan recorded. They can't even get fueled up. They can't do nothing until they have a flight plan. Why is it in our life that we live our lives without flight plans? My NewPath, Tuesday night, starting in November. Come, let's get a flight plan for the things that matter. It starts with your soul. Set, focus on the right things. You can read Philippians 4:8. He talks about all these cool things. He says, one final thing, brothers and sisters, catch this. One final thing before I sign off. P.S. Fix your thoughts on what is true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, and admirable. Think about the things that are excellent and worthy of praise. My friends, you're going to hear a whole lot in NewPath about what you need to be doing, not what you're not supposed to be doing. Because here's the coolest thing about it. When you put the right things in, it's not going to have room for the wrong things anymore. You see, the problem with my friend, with the weight issue, wasn't his weight. The issue is what he was focusing on and what he wanted. Because the moment that he chose his family, his relationship, his faith, and his service to his God, the battle was won. Now, this is one of the coolest things he said. He said, Brian, remember this. I didn't win every day. He said, I didn't do a diet. Because every time I tried diet in the past, the first day I blew it and I got off, I said, I messed it up, I'm done, and threw it all away. He said, I had to choose health every day. And if I lost that day, he says, the next day, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to choose to win today. And not beat himself for what he didn't do tomorrow. Some of you guys beat yourselves up because you're on this Bible reading plan or you're on this plan to whatever, and you miss a day and all of a sudden you're like, I failed. And we don't know how to process our losses. My friends, we're going to have bad days. There's going to be days you just need to survive. Please survive. But let's start living again and start growing again so we can thrive someday. And he's thriving now in his health. I'm so proud of him. Our emotions, the most powerful force a person has. We must guard them. God encourages us to use our emotions for the right things. Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. This is the idea of a prison with armed guards and barbed wire, saying, don't let these wrong things in. Everybody look at me. Guard who speaks into your soul. There's some people on Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram, you just need to unfriend. They just need to go away because they are speaking into your soul and their words are toxic. And can I encourage you to make sure you're the voice of light when you're out there? Guys, there's all sorts of things that we could blow people up on. And speak life. Encourage people. And friends, everybody allows people to have an impact into our lives. You have to guard who you let come in. I don't let just anybody tell me what we're supposed to do in this ministry, friends. I don't take advice from just anybody. I don't let everybody's opinion matter to me. I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but not everybody's a Brian Densmore fan. I know some of you are shocked today. But there's haters out there. We had somebody blow us up on Facebook, tell us that this is a terrible church and all this stuff, before we even had our first service. I remember reading that, I'm like, oh, what did we do? Did I write something really mean? I'm thinking, wait a second, who are you to speak into my soul right now? I'm guarding you. Who can make a better review? That's what my first thought is. Okay, we got to push them down on the list. There's a little plug. Get on Facebook, go to community, like us, lots of stars, good review. Okay, back on track. Facebook people, thank you so much for watching and helping us with that right now. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need. Thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace, catch this, will guard your heart. Some of you, friends, your hearts are so easy to get crushed. Maybe it's your temper, maybe it's your conditioning. I don't know what it is. But can I help you today? Guard it. Watch your emotions, so you can choose the right things. Our will. Choices are a result of our thoughts and our emotions. Okay, let me say it again. Your choices. What you do is a byproduct of what you think about and how you feel. We want to align those to the goal, okay? We act on what we think and feel. God encourages us to make wise choices, and that's why He's given us His Bible to help us with those things. But if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you will serve. And I love the story in Joshua. I wish I had time to get into it. But he made a choice one day. Me and my family, we're going to serve the Lord. We're going to honor Him with our life. Here's a thought. Joyce shared this. She's my co-author of a lot of our stuff here at NewPath. My wife, she said this, and it was really good. I want to write this down and share this with you. Your thoughts are your rudder. Your emotions are your engine. Your thoughts kind of tell you where you're trying to go. Your emotions give you the energy to get it done. My friends, if your emotions are down, do you got a lot of horsepower to do anything? But it isn't amazing when you're high as a kite, it doesn't take a whole lot to do stuff. Okay. Even cleaning the house. If you're emotionally excited about something, something's going good, all of a sudden those chores aren't so bad. But if you're in the survival place and your emotions are terrible, it's like one of Dante's 9 levels of hell. It's not fun at all. Extremely challenging. You must choose health for our bodies. This is a really cool thing. I wish I had time to get into it today. But don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? He lives in you, who was given to you by God. You do not belong to yourself, for God brought you with a high price. We'll talk about his high price at the end of the talk today. So you must honor God with your body. This is what Paul said. He said, I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. Have you noticed in your life that when you can control your body, a lot of stuff seems to follow? Okay, when I'm running, my next meal, when I go out to a restaurant, and I know I got to run the next day, I'm not eating junk, because I ain't carrying that with me tomorrow. Anybody who's trained before, you know that. It's really easy to start making better choices when you do something. Now, some of us, it's the other way around. You got to start getting your diet before you feel like you have the energy to do it. I don't know where you're at, but once again, we're holistic. It's related. But it's our fuel. So remember those things. Let me just talk about the temple for a second. This is an interesting thing. When God created the world, the temple was kind of like the world because God's presence was here in the world. Adam and Eve chose to go off the rails and did all sorts of crazy stuff, and God's presence left the world. But God's presence came back to the world in a few different ways. He did it on individual people for specific tasks in the Old Testament. We see them as a lot of the characters in the Old Testament that we read about, where God went and dwelled in them to do supernatural things. But he did another thing that was really cool. When the children of Israel left Egypt after the plagues and they're wandering in the wilderness, they made this structure called a tabernacle. And in the tabernacle, there was this inside dwelling place called the Holy of Holies with the Ark and all that, and watch Raiders, and it'll catch you up on that. Watch those old historical films, Raiders of the Lost Ark. But back there in the tabernacle, God's presence would come and reside. And it is the place where God's presence was. Well, once Israel got to the Promised Land, they had the privilege of building a temple. And the first temple was Solomon's. And you can read about it. When the God's glory, his presence, came into the temple for the first time, it was awe-inspiring. And it resided there. And guys, it was a crazy time period because only once a year the high priest could go into the Holy of Holies, into the presence of God. And he had to go through this crazy ritual and wash his hands and clean himself up and say these prayers and make sure there was nothing in his life. He was completely blameless at that moment to walk in to offer the sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins for a year for the people to just cover him. And he would wear these cords on his legs with these bells on it. And this is why. As he walked around and he did his thing in the Holies of Holies once a year in front of God's presence, if he did not do everything ready to enter into the presence of God, God would kill him. Then they would use those cords around his legs and say, hey, the bells ain't moving, pull out the priest. And they would just pull him out right there. That's what would happen. That's pretty serious. Fast forward. Jesus moves his presence into the physical, or God moves his presence into the physical body of Jesus when Jesus comes to this earth. Then Jesus ascends to the heavens, and he gives his spirit, his presence, into the apostles. And they do all sorts of crazy miracles. Go read the book of Acts. It's a crazy story of what they could do. But then something really cool happened. You got to read your verse again. He said, don't you realize that your body is a temple of the Spirit of God? If you receive Jesus Christ, you sitting here today are the house that resides the God of the universe. You are his temple. And there's a lot of language about how we should lead this temple and take care of it. Because why? It's the place that Almighty God dwells in. What a cool thing. And God says, yeah, I don't want this nasty stuff in my house. So stop it. He doesn't see us to hurt us. He's trying to get us to help us because he wants to empower us to live through us. And you and God can have those conversations. I just want you to think about that today. So your body is God's temple. Physical training leads to better dietary choices. Physical discipline creates credibility. That's my friend again. Man, his credibility was tough. When he would go say, hey kids, you really need to exercise and take care of yourself. All 360 pounds of them, they were kind of like, I don't listen to that. But do you think they listen to him now? Making small choices today makes a big impact someday. My friends, I cannot encourage you enough to realize this. We have a tendency after a message like this. Remember, first of all, don't try to be somebody else's light, be yourself. We started there, okay? But remember this too. What's just one step you can do? What's just a little more you can do? Don't try to run way over there. Just take a little bit forward. Just like my friend did. He didn't get the double quarter pounder, he got the quarter pounder. He didn't get the super big fry, he got the regular fry. He didn't get the huge plate, he got the small plate. Didn't get the big fork, he got the smaller fork. And just in time, your little choices made a massive difference long term. They make a big impact. Making small choices today makes a big impact someday. We must choose health for our spirits. Before we talk to the last one here, I'm going to tell you one of my stupid stories of my life, because I've done a lot of dumb things in my life. One thing I've never done is I've never let myself get over 200 pounds. I've always stayed under 200 pounds. Yeah, I'm a little wiry and a little kinesthetic and all those things, but there's been times I've been depressed and I've been eating a lot, but I still will never let myself get there. But there's another side to health. It's not just watching what you eat, it's watching what you do. Well, I got this brilliant idea once upon a time. that I was going to get a trainer in my life who's going to get me big and strong. And boy, I knew how to sell, so I told her everything I wanted. I wanted big arms, washboard abs, make my wife happy, do all that stuff. And she's like, let's do it. Well, the only reason I even had this conversation with her is she was married to an investor. I owned a construction company, and he flipped houses, and I wanted his contracts. So I figured if I'd gotten there with her and talked to her about it, and she learned about what I did, then I'd meet him and talk to him, and I could get a bunch of deals and make some money, and yes, that's a good strategy. But I didn't know that she was a CrossFit person. Why are you laughing? And I remember walking into the first time. You have to have some context. So we're making some pretty good money there. We're at the country club. We're doing all that, and we're spending all this time doing all these different things. And we had this really nice workout facility right there at the country club. All the guys, working out. There's never anybody there. In the middle of the day, it'd be a few people. And I said, hey, let's not go to your studio. Let's just come out to the country club and let's just work out there, and you can train me here. So we've been doing this for a while, and she'd always say, here's your exercises you must do 3 days a week. Man, she'd ask me the next week, I remember the second week, how'd you do? Man, I had every reason to explain to her how it couldn't happen. Just too busy. But it wasn't too bad for the first few weeks because it wasn't a whole lot of weight, and I could fake it and talk a good game. I thought, okay, and I'd hurt really bad for a couple days, but I never went back and did the exercise. I didn't do anything she was saying. So we're about week 9 at this point. Remember, I'm paying her good money to get me in shape. I'm seeing no changes because I'm not doing anything except the 1 day a week workout that's killing me for a few days. See how smart I am? This is really wise, right? And by the way, I still hadn't met her husband, so this was not working well. So the day before our workout thing, and remember, it was just simply an appointment on my calendar. That's all it was. Oh yeah, I got to go see the trainer. So the day before my day that I'll never forget, I had a big deal I was working on in Brush, Colorado. I lived in Denver, and so Brush is out by Kansas, several hours away, and I was taking another guy with me, and so we had to go all the way out there to meet with this guy to build this big building. And we had to fly because I had appointments back in Denver, and we're just flying, and we're just grabbing Subway on the way, and we're just eating junk. And I kept thinking, man, I don't want to use the bathroom because I don't want to drink anything, so I want to stop because it's terrible. I said, water? Who needs water? We're good. So just ate and went, came back, and had a lot of appointments, got home super late, got up early the next day, just grabbed a cup of coffee, walking out of the house, went to my meetings, and also I looked at my appointments, and I already had a couple appointments that morning, like, oh yeah, meet the trainer. Oh yeah, I got to go do that. Man, I gotta get some food in me because I haven't eaten all day, and it's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I got to get some food in me, so I go hit Chick-fil-A. There you go. And I get my big sweet tea and my Chick-fil-A, and I'm flying up there. I'm still swallowing as I'm walking into the gym, throwing my sweet tea in the trash. She meets me in the lobby. I'm like, this is different. She's, Brian, are you ready for today? I said, what's today? She says, today we start CrossFit. I said, what's CrossFit? She says, you're going to find out. I said, okay, great. I said, what are we going to do? She said, you know that workout we've been doing? I said, yeah, I think. I'm doing the pull downs and the bench press. And she's like, yeah, we're going to add more, but we're going to do it as fast as you can, as hard as you can. And after we finish each station, you're going to do 25 push-ups. Oh, I am? And you're going to do it 3 times. I am? I can hardly wait. And she's like, you did your workouts, right? Because you've been checking off, you've been doing them, and you've been doing it. And so week 9, you got enough muscle now, you got enough stability now, you're trying to go. We're going to do this. And she's like going back and forth, and she's got this game going. I'm thinking, oh, Lord, we're going to die today. I'm thinking, I'm a young guy. I can do this in my early 30s. We got this. And, man, I'll never forget when I started doing that bench press. I got through that, and I'm on my push-ups, and I'm doing my pull-downs. 3rd station out of 9, I was already tasting my Chick-fil-A coming back up. You understand what I'm saying? And it was getting harder, and I was like, this isn't good. And I'm on there, and so about halfway through, I said, hey, I need to tell you something. She's like, what? No, we got to keep going. Talk to me at the end of this thing. You only get 1 minute off, then we got to do it again. Oh, Lord, have mercy. And so I keep going, but the last one was the bike. This one killed me. High setting, ride your bike as hard as you can for 3 minutes. I don't know if you've ever done that. That's an eternity. And that's after you're doing the push-ups and you're pulling it down, you're moving this, you're moving that, you're doing chin, you're doing all that stuff, and you're on the bike. And you're going. And at this point, friends, the Chick-fil-A is about here. Because it never even made it all the way down. It never even was registered before it was coming back up, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm pushing on that bike, and I'm like, this isn't good. And I remember getting off the bike, and I'm thinking, okay, she says, okay, Brian, I'm serious. I'm like, I need to tell you something. And I just laid it out. She's like, I don't care. You signed up. You said you were going to do it. You can do it, Brian. I'm not going to let you quit. This is go time. This is the day. This is CrossFit, and we're going to do it. You're young. You're athletic. You can do this. Every part of my malehood had to come out right there to say, okay, round 2, here we go. Friends, I'm there, and I'm doing that bench press. And at this point, every arm is shaking. Nothing is working at this point. I'm doing the push-ups, and it's like this. And she's on me, come on, you can do it, you mind? And at this point, everybody that's left in the gym's kind of like, what is going on over here? These old rich guys are like riding their bikes, like, what is that kid doing, you know? And she's over there, and I'm doing this. And friends, I'm starting to get emotional. I'm starting to think this isn't going to work. And I keep doing it. She's on me, and I'm doing it. I'm putting my pull downs, and I get done. I get on the bike for the second time. And I'm about a minute in. And I mean, I'm literally like this, trying to ride the bike. And my legs are shaking. I'm green. I'm pale. I mean, nothing's working. And all of a sudden, literally, I fell off the bike. My whole body went into shock. I hadn't drunk water in a week. All I had was coffee in my system. And my muscle says, I'm done. And I literally fell off the bike, and all my muscles are just twitching. She's like, Brian, are you okay? And I'm like, it's just, and I start crying. I don't understand what's happening. I don't know what's going on. My legs never had this before in my life. And so she says, oh, you're just getting those, spasms or something. We'll work them out. So she gets that roller thing, and she rolls them on my legs like, boom, 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 boom. And then her eyes get this big. She's like, you got knots all over your body. I'm telling you, it's not good for this. So I'm like, I'm going to go in the bathroom. I'm embarrassed. I'm crawling into the bathroom. She comes in there with me, right into the men's room. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, this isn't good. And I start throwing up. It's not good. It's not good at all. I'm like, I got to go home. So I get back in my truck, and guys, I am shaking. I'm driving down the road. And I'm like, oh, here it comes again. And I jump out of my truck, throw it in park, and I'm crawling out, and I'm just throwing up in this guy's lawn. I mean, it's just bad. And I was so out of it, I look up, and the homeowner's standing right there just staring at me, watering his plants. He's like, I finally get home. I walk in. I sit in a chair. I said, Joy, Amy just tried to kill me. She walks to the kitchen, pulls off a banana, sets it on my chest, and walks away. Because she had been telling me for weeks, Brian, you better take this serious. If you're going to do this, you're going to choose this, you better do what you need to do to get to where you need to go. You can't expect great results without doing the hard, stinking work every day. Friends, you're never going to get to thriving if you don't do those. And every time, I still have spots on my legs that just still aren't right, that I just jacked up that day. As I pushed a muscle to a place with no nutrients in it that never should have been done. Because I wasn't honest, didn't do what I needed to do, and I wasn't serious about it. How many of us live our lives that way, though? We know our relationships are falling off the rails. We know that our health's not where it needs to be. We have all these issues. And if we're honest with ourselves, we're not choosing the must-dos every day that we need to do to get where we need to be someday. The Spirit of God is the most important part of all this because you don't have to do this alone. He wants to encourage you. The Spirit that lives in you, His word is comforter, encourager. You can do it. I believe in you. And read those verses there. But go to the back of your page for a minute. This is the most important part of what we're going to do. Because this is your part that you need to take home with you to think about your must-dos to get to where you need to go. It's called My New Path. May your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless until the Lord Jesus Christ comes again. How can I improve my health? That's your question. 4 ways to help you think it through. What is the health goal you hope to achieve? We're making it a little more concrete. So we've talked about the abstract, body, soul, and spirit. Now pin it down. Maybe it's an emotional goal. Maybe it's a health goal. Maybe it's a mindset goal. Maybe it's just as simple as, man, my attitude stinks. And I'm going to make a choice every morning to think about the right things. We did this with our impact kids not too long ago. I gave them a 30-day challenge. So the first thing I do every day when I get up is I go downstairs now and I drink a full glass of water. I've learned my lessons. First thing I do, before the coffee, before everything else. Because who knows when CrossFit's going to be in my future again. And then I say this verse to myself. I say, God's not giving me a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind. Let's do this. Every morning, that's how I start my day. And then I get into my devotions or my quiet time, whatever it is. But that is my habit. And you know what? I hate water first thing in the morning. It tastes terrible. But I'll never forget, I was talking to some different nutritionist people, and they said the most healthy thing you can do every day is drink a full glass of water. I don't know why water tastes so terrible. It tastes great before bed, and when you wake up, it's terrible. I don't know what happens. What is the goal? Mindset. What's emotional? Ask God. He'll tell you. How are you going to work toward this goal? What's your accountability plan? What's your reminders? Who are you going to do? How are you going to get there? All right? So you made your goal. You know what you need to do. How are you going to get there? What's a concrete thing you're going to take? What are some daily steps that you're going to take to improve your health and reach your goal right now? What are you going to concretely do? What are you going to do? And the last one, did you schedule it? The number one reason that people don't do things outside of accountability and all that and plans is they forget. It's not that they don't want to, they just think and forget. But you know what we have today that's really cool? Things called phones. And they're smartphones. They have this thing called a calendar in it. You can set alarms, appointments, reminders. And so you don't have to, because guys, we're busy. We got a lot coming at us. But let that thing that we're on all the time actually start helping us to get to where we need to go instead of just being a distraction in our life. Let's use those things. My friends, I want you to get to thriving. Man, it's a fun place to be in health. It's a great place to be. It's a fun thing to feel strong and to feel like you're taking care of yourself. It's a good place. I've talked to a lot of people about this. We've talked about faith. We've talked about relationships. We've talked about character. And this week is health. My dad was a disaster at taking care of his body. He died at 48 from alcohol abuse. He lived as diabetic because of his alcohol, 400s, didn't take care of it all. He took care of his diabetes for maybe 3 months. And then he says, it's just not worth it. I had that table with our family intervention with my dad to try to get him to choose us and to choose health and to choose all that stuff. And we had the whole family there, and we put his keys on the table. And we said, you can either have your keys and not have us, or let us have your keys and have us. And he took his keys and walked out of the door. I've been on the other side. I know how much it hurts. But make sure you're not on the other side. I'm not talking to a place of not getting it. I understand. I don't know exactly where you're at, but we're here to help and encourage. But the greatest gift I can give to you above anything else is if you're here today and you don't know if you have a relationship with God, you need to get that taken care of first. Because when God says he enters into your heart and your life, he takes your spirit that's kind of there, it's kind of a corpse, and he quickens it and he makes it alive. And I want you to experience his life in you. Have eternal life planted into your heart. The greatest gift I can give you is the gift of salvation, which is not from me, it's from God, to spend eternity with him. I'm going to give a prayer, and if you want to receive him today, simply say this prayer in your heart to him. Stop by the table afterward. We'll tell you more about your next steps. But we want to give you a book and a Bible and a letter that I wrote if you've never made this choice before for Jesus, and today is the day to choose him. Choose him. God in heaven, thank you for today. Lord, we've talked about a lot of things. We've been inspired by stories of people that were way off the rails to health someday. And we've talked about stories in my life when I was just so stupid that I didn't even think about the right things and thinking I could do stuff without doing the daily habits that really caught up to me in the end. And it was the most painful moment, embarrassing moment of my life to realize that life, to get where you want to go, starts in the lonely, the boring, the monotonous daily grind. And you have to have those things daily to get to where you want to be someday. But Lord, the most important thing we could talk about today is to make sure that people know you. And if there's somebody here today that said, man, I don't know if I know Jesus, but they want to have a relationship with him, I pray that they'd have the courage to say this right now. Say, God, I know that I've done wrong things. I know that I've made all sorts of poor choices. But Lord, the best I know how, I'm going to receive Jesus And I'm going to see what Jesus did for me. And Jesus died on the cross, and he gave his blood, and somehow his blood became a currency to cover everything I've done wrong. And it paid for that. An exchange took place. His life became my life. And right now I want to receive his life for what I've done wrong, trade it in for what he's done right. And I want to receive that gift today. And I believe in it with my whole heart and my whole soul today. Jesus, take my life. I need you today. In your name we pray. Amen. If you're here today and you pray that prayer for the first time, meet me at the Connect table. We have a Bible for you and a book written by my friend Jim and a letter to tell you more about what you can do with the greatest choice you could ever make. Facebook, thanks for being with us here today. We'll see you all next week. God bless.